Oh, and by the way, there was this thing called the RAL Room Mastermind that was launching 3 weeks after that. And I kid you not, I was manic. Andrea can confirm this. Like I went to the other room and I don't even know if I was speaking English. I was like, this guy's told me about this strategy. It's exactly what we're doing. And they have a way that we can do it again. And it just caught fire. It just caught fire. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Hybrid Real Estate Professional Podcast. I am your host, Ameen, and today's episode is going to be a special guest appearance I did on the RAL Room Podcast with my friend Charlie Cameron, who is now actually a partner of ours on our Everwood Reserve memory care project. So we talked through a little bit of my story and also dig actually deep into the details of the deal behind Everwood Reserve. And Charlie and I are now partnering, and we're right in the middle, as I record this, of raising capital for the deal to get it off the ground. So if you're interested in hearing the nitty gritty, some of the numbers and where we're at in the project, this is a great interview for you. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Welcome back to today's episode of the RAL Room Assisted Living Podcast. I'm your host, Charlie Cameron, and today I am absolutely thrilled to have one of my most amazing friends and one of our RAL Room members on the podcast today, special guest, Ameen. What's up, Aaron?
So glad to be here. It's an honor.
Let's go. Guys, this is going to be a different format today. Normally, we have folks who've operated homes and we go through their struggles and solutions for you guys, which I think is always super valuable. But this is a different one because what we're going to get into is Aaron and Andrea's backstory. We're going to talk about how they got into the RAL Room, how that helped them figure out what path of the many different paths in assisted living they chose to go down, the partnership that they chose to do, what that project looks like now, which is super exciting. They're making lots of progress, how we ended up partnering together on it, and then just an overview of the opportunity itself. With that, Aaron, take it away, man. I do want to hit your backstory before even real estate because I think it's so interesting. Rewind it back. Tell us what you were doing before you got into real estate and how you made that transition.
Yeah, for sure. I know Charlie likes this part about my story, so I'll start even before the real estate investing began. I worked my first 10 years of my professional career in the concerts industry. So I was a booker, meaning I negotiated the deal terms and set up all the budgets for concerts, everything from club level shows all the way up to the arenas and even stadiums. And that was a fun chapter of my life. Too much fun, actually. I worked 5 days a week in the office, and I would go to shows 3 or 4 nights a week. For a while, I was living in Las Vegas for the bulk of that time. And I was going to sometimes 3 or 4 shows in a single night. And I had enough fun for a lifetime, we'll put it that way. And basically what I realized working that much for not that much money was that my upside was really capped. And the amount of time and energy that I had to put into a career like that took everything out of me. And I came to the conclusion that there was not a reciprocal return on that effort. And that kind of woke me up to the idea of there has to be some other way to capture and retain my own upside in life. Long story short, I had as much fun as I possibly could, and I found my way into an inpatient rehab program in 2019 for alcohol abuse because I had run myself ragged, built all sorts of bad habits, and part of that turnaround was I asked some really tough questions about what I wanted my life to look like. Did I really want to work that hard just for the hopes that one day I might move into a job that would be even more stressful for the potential to make more money? Or did I want to explore or at least diversify into some different ways of building wealth and happiness? And so that's where real estate entered. My wife, Andrea, and we bought our first rental property in 2019, not so coincidentally, about 2 months after my rehab stint. So I took all that crazy misdirected energy that I was pouring into my bad habits and I channeled it towards something more productive. We knew we wanted to have a family. We knew we wanted a different path than the one we were walking. And so it was really a symbolic gesture of how can we invest in something where we really do capture and own that upside. So we bought, fast forwarding a bit, entertainment industry evaporated overnight on March 14th, 2020, when COVID basically shut down not only the country, but the world. One of my last duties in the concerts industry was to go and cancel all the shows, call all the venues and refund all the ticket sales and pretty much shut everything down. And then my position was furloughed. So at that time, we had actually already bought 4 properties. And overnight, we had to basically figure out what's the future going to look like. I ended up getting a different job and a different career path. I now work in management consulting, which I've done for almost the last 5 years. And in doing so, we ended up moving away from Las Vegas. We had to figure out, are we going to keep these rental properties? Are we going to sell them and turn it in 4 properties in Las Vegas equals 1 house in Seattle, which is where I moved back to. And ultimately, we became long distance investors almost by accident. And the first chapter of our real estate journey was all about that: single family rentals, long distance investing, and just growing into that identity. But I'll pause in a second. But the important part of the Las Vegas chapter was that the second and third properties we ever bought were actually already leased to assisted living operators. It was just a pure stroke of luck that the agent we were working with, he called us with those deals. They were on these 5-year leases, paying significantly above market rent. The operator was already in place. They were well established, and it was about the best deal we could ever ask for. So we got our first exposure to residential assisted living through those rentals. But it wasn't until a bit later that we really caught on to it as a permanent strategy, which is where we are now. I'll pause there for a minute.
God, man, I do love your backstory. Who doesn't love like a comeback story? And I think yours is so cool because you had a realization before things got too out of hand, and life just schwacked you in the face, and you took that and you turned it into rentals and a new career. And now I won't spoil the project that you're working on now, but man, like the world is your oyster now, and the turnaround has been just absolutely amazing. So I love to hear that. I also want to point something out. Like you said, just stroke of luck, quote unquote, that these assisted living lease to operator, is what we've come to call it, deals fell into your lap. And I think that's not a stroke of luck. And here's why: because you had decided to take action and to take a different path, and you'd already started getting rentals and you made moves. You bought a rental before that. So that agent knew you were serious, saw what you wanted to do, understood your vision because you relayed it to them. And when they saw the deals, they brought those opportunities to you. So really you positioned yourself at the right time and the right place and taking the right amount of action to be able to get those opportunities. So I think it's not luck. I think it was fate in a way, driven by action.
No, I appreciate that. I'm going to double down on that a little bit, because when we first bought the very first rental property, it was an experiment, right? It was me taking all this energy and resentment that I had built up. And you said that life schwacked me in the face. I think I schwacked myself in the face, right? Like I was self-sabotaging and turning to the wrong direction to try and solve my problems, right? And the first rental was really just about taking life back into our own hands. But like you said, he took action, built relationships with the agent, and learned what we could learn, and set the tone that, hey, we are serious and we are trying to build something for our future. And it's exactly what you just said. He sent me an email that I have framed. I've written about this quite a bit, and I've told this story many times. But he sent an email that basically said, these 2 deals came across my desk. I know you and Andrea are trying to build something for your future, and you guys were the perfect candidate for this deal. And so he brought it to us off market. Nobody else even got a look at it. And I do really believe and prescribe to what you're saying, that we did set the tone by taking action. And I'm very grateful. To this day, that I view that as one of the biggest turning point moments in our life, because instead of this owning one rental on the side while we work full time, all of a sudden, that was only about 4 months after we bought our first rental. All of a sudden, we catapulted into this new identity where we own 3 rental properties, 2 of which were these basically businesses. And so it really forced a lot of change and growth in our life in a short period of time. And the consequence of that happening is still playing out. It's still manifesting in what's going on today.
Yeah, man, I love that. Okay, so got a couple rentals. Now you're out of state and you're still buying in Vegas. So what happened next? How did you decide that, wait a minute, this assisted living thing, maybe there's more to this and there's the business side too?
Yeah, there's about 5 years in between the last story I told and where we are right now. So at first, we just kept building upon the baseline knowledge of rental properties. We wanted to become good landlords. We honestly didn't think too much of the whole lease to operator thing because we thought it was a fluke. Somebody brought us that deal. We didn't know how we could replicate something like that. We were just grateful that we had those 2. And then we kept building your standard single family rental portfolio. Life also, one of my strong opinions now is that life is not a linear journey in most cases. I was not expecting that we would have to move away from Las Vegas when we did. We started having children very quickly. after we got there. We now have 3 kids, age 3 and under. And through that, like our life circumstances changed too. So we actually bought, it was 8 single family rentals across 3 states in about 3 years. And that was all leading up to the time when we were having children. So we got as good of a skill set, and we took our own money as far as we could take it. But at some point we ran out, right? Our expense profile changed dramatically. We went from dual income, no kids in a low cost of living market to living in Washington State, which is one of the more expensive places in the country. And we had 1 kid at the time and 2 on the way. So we had to more or less refactor our entire lives. We ended up relocating down to Houston area, and we had this new equation to balance. Not only did we have to solve for the lifestyle that we wanted and putting ourselves in a place where we could picture raising our children, but we had to be able to afford it. And I'm in multiple different mastermind groups. I had been exploring like what are the different strategies that could help solve that financial problem. And another kind of divine intervention moment was when I heard Dr. Alex Schlow on a podcast, the Action Academy podcast, which is the mastermind that he and I are both in. And he was talking about this strategy, this lease to operator. I had never even heard of it called that, but I was like, he's describing the 2 houses that we already own. And he goes on to explain not only what the strategy is, but how he went about finding deals, how he's done this multiple times. Oh, and by the way, there was this thing called the RAL Room Mastermind that was launching 3 weeks after that. And I kid you not, I was manic. Andrea can confirm this. Like I went to the other room, and I don't even know if I was speaking English. I was like, this guy told me about this strategy. It's exactly what we're doing. And they have a way that we can do it again. And it just caught fire. It started answering all these questions. I was not lit up by the idea of doing storage or multifamily or mobile home parks. I recognized the upside potential in those, but they did not resonate with me in the same way that when I heard that episode, it really just started to click. And then Andrea got on board too, right? And she's heard me participate in enough of these groups and come with all sorts of ideas. And she's always supported the ideas and what they could unlock. But this one actually clicked with her. It resonated with her background. Her father had early onset dementia, diagnosed when she was 19, passed when she was 26. He was in a big smelly facility, nursing home, understaffed, overworked. People were really unhappy. She was always not sad when she was visiting him and then ashamed when she would leave. It's just a horrific experience. And so when we started talking about this residential assisted living as a business, it really unlocked something in her where she felt like she wishes she could have provided better for her own family, but now she found a way to give back. So it met the intersection of everything we were looking for. It solved the financial problem. It provided an opportunity to give back and make an impact in society. And then, of course, the more we learned from you guys about the overwhelming supply-demand gap and what's coming, it just became too obvious not to pursue, and we haven't looked back since.
Man, I love that. And you mentioned something, you have 3 under 3. So you're not busy at all. And with the full-time job, and you have your own podcast, and now all the things you're getting involved, plus all your rentals. But for Andrea to get on board, for your spouse to get on board with something, that you're so passionate about, how does that make you feel?
It's the greatest thing ever. There's challenges working directly with your spouse. You're already partners on several levels when you're a parent and you're a spouse and you're running a household. Now we're running a business together. So I will not sugarcoat. There are plenty of challenges as we learn to adapt to that new dynamic. But the upside, there's nothing greater, honestly, like that we feel like we can truly be together on this journey. And we have such distinct lanes, like the stuff that she's passionate about, she can pour into this business that we're building. And the stuff that I'm passionate about and that I have good foundational skills to support, like we're not occupying the same lane. We can bring different things to the table from our backgrounds and create this, what we believe is a beautiful vision. The whole industry, and particularly residential assisted living, I think is a wonderful antidote to the big smelly facility. But the fact that we can start this brand that's inspired by experiences in our family, Andrea can pour her heart and soul into it. And yeah, just to see the look on her face when she talks about this business, there's very little else I can think of that makes me happier than being able to be on this journey with her.
Yeah. Game changer, aligned goals. There's nothing better. Okay. So tell us about the project. It's time.
All right. It's time. Yeah. So we are building 2 Memory Care Mansions, shout out to Brett Shotkavis and Laura Shotkavis. They pioneered or at least branded this model of the 10,000 square foot, 16 bedroom, 16 bathroom luxury builds. And each one, so we'll have 32 beds total. We are under contract for 7 acres of land in Tomball, Texas, which is a suburb in the northwest part of Houston. It's a beautiful little town. We spent about 3 months, mostly Andrea, driving up and down northwest, north, and the west parts of Houston looking for suitable land. We're working with Brett, who has a great template for the end-to-end project lifecycle, from finding the land to developing to actually starting the businesses, combined with everything that we're learning and everyone that we're meeting in the RAL room. And we've scoped out this project where we're now about 2 months as we record this from the finish line to close on the land and start construction. And at the end of it all, we'll have this 2 beautiful homes with enough land to potentially expand into houses 3 and 4. We are raising about $2.8 million in investor capital and funding the rest through an SBA loan. The SBA loan is an incredible tool where in many ways it's government subsidized. So banks are willing to take on and lend on projects that they might not otherwise be able to. But we're bringing investors along for the ride. We've crafted what we believe is a very investor-friendly structure. So it's a really incredible feeling coming from single-family real estate, and which we really enjoyed, and it created a lot of financial upside for us. It created inhabitable and good environments for our tenants. But now we feel like the impact of these efforts is going to not only serve the residents first and foremost, but we're able to bring investors in and create returns and kind of abundance for everyone involved. And there's no feeling quite like it.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So great overview. I want to double tap a few things and highlight some things. I will say, yeah. So Brett, he was on the podcast. You guys can go back and listen to that episode. He talks all about that model, and he talks about how the cash flow on those homes, if everything's done anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 a month, which is wild. At the same time, you're serving 16 families, 16 residents in a boutique, fantastic environment, a totally opposite of a skilled nursing facility. Yet you can provide that sort of care on a more part-time basis in addition to assisted living. And so you're like checking all the boxes. You've got a cooler thing, a thing that cash flows really well. And that's one home. Aaron's building 2 from the get-go. So total project cost, what's that look like?
Yeah, so right now it's hovering around $9.4 million. And that's including the construction, the purchase of the land, developing the land, bringing in utilities, paving, all that stuff, building everything, luxury build, luxury finishes, purpose built specifically with memory care in mind. So every minutia, no detail is too small. We're optimizing it for people who are dealing with dementia and Alzheimer's. And there's a lot that goes into that too. But yeah, the cost, it should be significantly lower than the equity we'll be able to create. We bought the land. We're under contract at a pretty significant discount. We were able to rezone it from agriculture to commercial, which immediately added a ton of equity value as well. And we have strong buy-in from the city. We were able to not only get it rezoned, which involved getting in front of the movers and shakers of the city, but we've really built relationships with the city and got people bought in behind the vision of what we're doing. And everyone we talk to, whether it's anecdotally meeting people in the community and also the people that we've hired to do research on the stats and demographics, everything supports that this is a big need in this community and we'll be adding value in more ways than one.
Dude, I love it. And I mean, we talk about it a lot on this podcast. The lender is a partner, right? The real estate professionals are partners. Your partners, your investors are partners. Your staff are partners. And guess what? The zoning and the planning and everybody else that has to get involved, that has to touch your project and improve your project from one perspective or another, they're all partners in the deal. So the more relationships you can build in an amicable way, the better off you're going to be. You got that thing rezoned in record time. Andrea's basically the mayor of Tomball at this point, and you guys are crushing it. And I just think that that's so cool. And it just speaks to kind of your personalities, your value add perspective on life, and just move it and shake it. Take the action, make the relationships, and everything else will fall into place.
I want to slide back to something you said, right? Because I know it's a half joke, half real, but 3 kids, full-time job, rental portfolio, and all that. And it sounds like it would be not easy to do this, but I explained the why behind it, right? This is a purpose-driven business for us. It solves more problem than one. And it's something that we believe is a really long-term piece of our lives, not only in the next 1 to 2 years, but in the decades to come. And so being able to create this and share it with other people, this became the focus of our lives. Yes, we still have to cover the bases. I do still have an obligation to my employer. I do still have obligation to my family, but we believe that this is a centerpiece of what is now our long-term vision for our family. So I think when you can, there's a reason that there's that cliche, start with why. If you have a strong enough why, then the determination and your ability to work through difficult things, even when maybe there's a lot of pressure stacked against you, I think that you being anyone listening to the show can overcome just about anything with the right level of motivation and a sense of why.
Yeah, agreed. And you're setting out for a new goal, a new vision for what your life is going to be. And you're making that shift gradually over time. And some people decide that burning the boats is fine. I was like you. I did the gradual slide of, okay, I got some rentals. That's not quite enough to replace my military job. Let me get my real estate license. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, now I'm there. And so for me, it was like, oh, okay, this is creating a lifestyle change. And it's still continuing, right? My wife's still active duty, but within a few years, it won't be that way. And assisted living will be everything for us as well. In fact, I have shut down all the other real estate things and solely focused on this because I believe in it so much. Okay, so you're now doing your first operating assisted living project. For the listeners out there, $9 million. He's buying land. He's building 2 homes, 32 beds from the ground up, is getting an SBA loan for that. 10% down?
No, it'll be more like 27% down when all is said and done.
Yeah.
So first of all, I want to make one correction. It's not he, it's we, right? There's a huge team involved in this. And between the banking partners, the capital partners, and the active partners who you and the boys are part of that team. Yeah, we are. So going to the lenders you brought up, that is a big piece of the puzzle. And SBA lending, while they do have very favorable potential low down payment options, when you are a newer operator and when you are doing ground up construction, you're fighting against a lot of headwinds, right? There's a lot of different things to prove. And especially in a difficult environment like it has been over the last few years for banks, they have more stringent policies on how they manage risk, right? So in our case, we do have a strong profile. We have a lot of collateral from our other rental portfolio. Like we have a reasonably strong case to make, but they still have their requirements on how much liquidity they want to see, how much down payment they want to see. Banks do want to see skin in the game. So we are putting in, I think it is 27% all said and done. And that includes raising some additional capital so we have some reserves. Because the last thing they want to do is fund a loan to start a construction project, and then you run out of money in 6 months or 8 months. You got to budget in for those contingencies and anything that might happen. So yeah, it's a little more complex of an equation than some of the advertising materials might make it look like.
Yeah. There's a lot of moving parts. There's even lots of different parts to the loan itself through the SBA, which is interesting. We won't dive deep into that because our listeners will fall asleep, but it is intricacies you learn through the process. Luckily, we've had a lot of folks to lean on, right? You got Brett's team. We've had a lot of experts and SBA lenders come on and talk. We had a lending broker who I believe connected you with the current lender you've decided to work with, which is awesome, right? That all those connections happen, and now we're at where we're at. Yeah, I'm so excited for this project. I'm just so excited that your first path is I'm going to develop 32. Oh, by the way, there's room for 2 more homes on this lot that we now own, which is just mind blowing. And I think it's one of the most appealing models to me in assisted living is developing these homes exactly how you want from the ground up, just to be beautiful and to be able to build enough in a small location to be able to have economies of scale without feeling like an assisted living facility.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I want to underscore something you said though, right? Is that first of all, we have been under contract for 4.5 months. We've been working on this specific project under Brett's tutelage and with the support of the RAL Room for almost 10 months, right? So this didn't happen overnight. All the stuff I'm rattling off about this vision and the very specific details, like it took a lot of work to get even to this point. And we're up on the edge of closing. It's like you work this hard just to get to the starting line. The closing date is the starting line.
Yeah.
And then you have to build the places. And then that you get to another starting line where you got to run the businesses. So I think the vision is very strong, but a lot of the specific motions, and you were talking about how the network came together. We have Brett's contacts, his playbooks. We also have the RAL Room has been an unbelievable resource, right? You guys have 6 calls a month. Each person is an expert from different parts of the business plan. You got everything from lenders to lawyers to current operators to people who specialize in floor plans, architects, and engineers. These are people that Andrea and I have been lucky to add to our Rolodex by virtue of just being in this group. And we're surrounded. We have a pod. Shout out Red Pod if you're listening to this. We have a small pod. There's 7 of us. We're all doing ground up construction. We meet once a week and we talk all the time in between. We're sharing construction bids and looking at term sheets together. We're dissecting all that stuff to make sure that we're not missing any blind spots. We're there for each other. Believe me, I'm smiling a lot during this interview, but there have been plenty of challenging moments. And it has been one of the more challenging stretches of our life. And like I said, we're just getting started. So I think the people we surround ourselves with, the network we're a part of, our commitment, like those are all the things that are powering us. And I don't take any of that for granted. And this is a we mission. It is not something that I would recommend a single person take on with that solo mentality. It's a team sport.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And man, you made such a good point. There's so much work that happens along the journey, right? And there's so much more work, to your point, to still get there, to get it across the finish line, to get it to this new valuation, which is going to happen a couple times along the way over the next decade. And those are, man, the projections are wild. But you always see those memes or whatever that's, oh, he's so lucky, she's so lucky, they did such a good job. And nobody ever really acknowledges the part in between. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the part in between, okay? That's going to be setting Aaron and the team up for stratospheric success through residential assisted living. So you're hearing it now. The journey is not easy, especially ground up development, but it's worth it. It is absolutely worth it from every perspective you could think of. The fulfillment, the financials, the freedom that's going to come with it. It just makes so much sense. If you have any questions about those, either of us will gladly answer why, because we are so passionate about it. Okay, so I'll shut up about that piece. Aaron, why did you decide to choose the path of development?
Yeah, so it's interesting. When we joined the RAL Room, I told you I listened to Alex's episode on the Action Academy. I had that manic moment and I was like, we're going to go recreate and do all this lease to operator. We were already comfortable with long distance investing. So when I joined the RAL Room, and that was before I even told Andrea or looped her into the calls and all, that was the plan. It was just going to be more lease to operator. We were going to do long distance, maybe research. What's the best market to do that? But I mentioned, the more I learned, the more I actually went through your guys' modules. You guys have a really good system, which I firmly believe it is the start with why. You start with a big strategy worksheet of set your goals, not just your financial goals, but what do you actually want out of your life? And what do you want real estate to do for you? What do you want residential assisted living to do for you? So we work through all your prompts, and then we work through your build your own business plan, which also is sequential and very thoughtful. And it starts with, okay, pick where you want to look. Pick what type of home you want. Which strategy do you want to use? And there was this fork in the road of, okay, are you going to lease out to an operator or are you going to operate? And I got really stuck on that part of the plan because it had never even occurred to me that operating was an option. But the more time I spent around other people who had already made that commitment and that decision, the more exposure I got to existing operators who didn't come in with 25 years of medical experience. They learned how to do it. That showed me that it was possible. And then combined with Andrea and her vision coming in and that really catching fire, we built the courage, right? We saw people in our pod who were already working with Brett, who had taken that leap. And like, it just being in that room gave us the courage to expand our vision. And then once we made that decision, we took it step by step. That's when we started working with Brett. That's when we did exactly what he tells us to do, right? And how to find land, how to scope it out and all that. And I think at the end of the day too, development versus rehab or anything like that, we really like the idea of controlling the variables because you're building it purpose built. You're not trying to retrofit or make something force a certain layout that might not have been the original idea of that property. And we really can come in and take a clean slate and build something exactly in the mold of what we would want it to look like. And when you have a premium product that you're really proud of, it becomes that much easier to provide the quality service and get behind what you're positioning out to the market, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I think looking back a year ago, A, we didn't know each other. B, looking at where we are right now, I never would have guessed it. I don't think that might be more shocking to you that this is what you're doing now, that you and your wife are developing two assisted living mansions right next door to each other, that I'd be running this podcast and the mastermind doing so well and getting to meet so many people and networking with so many folks, and to be hopefully getting under contract on our own land. I don't want to jinx it. Knock on wood. Soon to do a very similar thing. Unbelievable that this is where we're at, and it just speaks to you. Just don't know where life's going to take you and where your journey.
I truly believe that, first of all, I'm very humbled to be in a position to even have gotten this far with any of this. I don't take any of it for granted, whether it's the investors who are trusting us or the people who have chosen to partner with us, yourself included, all the resources that we've been able to consume, the ability to just even afford to be in these type of groups, right? That's all stuff that we've layered on step by step over the years. And I really do take a lot of time to appreciate how that progress incrementally developed over time. And I also think that sometimes when I heard that episode and when I had my weird little whatever you want to call that, I knew right then and there that this was the right fit. Again, as somebody who had been exploring all these other asset classes, I knew I loved real estate. I knew I wanted to sink my teeth into it. I knew I wanted to grow and evolve and expand, but I hadn't found that right fit. When I heard that episode, it became very abundantly clear to me that this is the right place to focus my energy. Then I went through all those steps we talked about, used all your guys' resources, did what people that are smarter than me said I should do. And that's how I got here, not by some stroke of genius out of my own, right? Not reinventing the wheel, but just modeling after people who are doing things that I really admire and appreciate, and actually listening to what they have to say.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to learn the hard way before you start actually paying attention and just modeling after people who are smarter and listening to them and following them. But in that boat, I started with 8 apartments as a brand new dad, and it was a disaster, and I made it work. But it takes us a little bit to learn that lesson. And I'm glad we have, because everything has come to where we are now. And it's not by luck, right? It's by action, and by all the things we did in the past led us to this exact point where we're now partnering on this deal. So we were lucky enough to be invited by Aaron to be a part of this opportunity to help put this deal together, to help raise money for the deal. And dude, we're just so excited about it. We're talking about it nonstop. And we're really glad to be a part of this opportunity with you and with Brett and the team. It's just absolutely awesome. So why don't we talk a little bit about the opportunity that investors have that are partnering with us on this one? Sorry to interrupt this episode, but let's be honest. Most real estate investing right now, it's either buy a fourplex or try Airbnb and hope for the best.
Yeah, we're not here for that.
We're here to show you what we believe is the most overlooked high cash flow real estate strategy in the game right now. You guessed it, residential assisted living. It's literally the one place in real estate where you can net 6 figures on a single home and feel like a decent human being at the same time. You're helping sweet old ladies eat pancakes and play bingo and live longer through better care. You tell me what's better than that.
So we're hosting a free live webinar called How You Can Create Financial Freedom with Residential Assisted Living. No fluff, just value. And it's happening at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 6:30 Mountain Time. No excuses. It's online. Put on sweatpants. We won't judge.
We'll break down why residential assisted living is the best opportunity right now, the 5 steps to take down your first home, and how to set up a business that makes a real impact and real money.
Spots are limited, so don't be that person who DMs us in 3 months saying, wait, is it too late to start?
So hit up theralroom.com/webinar and register now.
Be the hero your grandma already thinks that you are.
We'll see you there. Pancakes not included.
Yeah, sure. So like I said, we're raising $2.8 million in outside investor capital. Andrea and I are making our own contribution. All GPs are actually co-investing alongside, which is nice, right? I think I've invested in other deals, and I always appreciate knowing that the people that are putting the deal together have some type of skin in the game. And so we are co-investing. We are personally guaranteeing that full loan. which will be north of $7 million. You can note that we're right there alongside you and we have every aligned interest in the project's success. But the opportunity, essentially, we have it as standard syndicated structure. We're going to have a preferred return. We'll have a waterfall that's very favorable towards investors. So the first large chunk of capital is going back to investors before the sponsor team gets paid. Most of our upside is on the back end once we've fully returned the capital. We are using loan products that don't have balloon debt or crazy floating rates that are going to force us to make decisions at inopportune moments. So we have currently modeled to return all investor capital and even actually double that by year 6. And we have worked out a structure where we're aiming for over a 20% IRR over the course of 10 years total. So we get people's capital back by year 6 with 2x multiple, and then we continue to pay them until we meet or achieve a 20% IRR. So people are getting long-term participation. They're getting exposure to this incredible, resilient asset, making an impact in the local community. And we're grateful to be able to deliver that for investors while hopefully starting the snowball down the hill for what will be a long road ahead for Andrea and I.
Yeah, dude, man, when we first started getting to raising money, I think this happens for all real estate investors. You have this fear of, oh man, what are people going to think? And I can't do this. I'm not capable because XYZ. But the coolest part about this is that, man, there's so much opportunity in this deal. There is so much cash flow. There's so much equity going to be built on this deal that we can bring investors in. We could bring a lot of investors in, and we can pay them double or more what they would make from the stock market, which is just mind blowing, right? Because now they're partners in this deal and we're all winning together. So just to kind of rehash some of these numbers here, the goal is an over 20% IRR. So basically a 20% return on your money over time. And because it's a development, it's going to take a couple years before it really cash flows to investors. And the way that, and I think it's so creative, Aaron, the way you approach this in a typical syndication model where you bring investors to a deal, a lot of times it's not a development. And so what'll happen is, yeah, you probably won't get cash flow in year 1 as they're repositioning the property, and you'll get some cash flow in year 2, and then it'll pick back up. It'll pick up quite a bit. And then somewhere between 5 to 7 years, there'll be a refinance or a sale event. And all the investors will get their money back, usually, hopefully close to a double, right? So if you invested $100,000, hopefully you're getting about $200,000 by that point, and you leave the deal. And what you decided to do was keep investors in after that event, which is really cool. So what's happening is, yes, there might be a little bit less cash flow in the first 2 years compared to a reposition syndication, but the cash flow picks up really well after that. And then at the 6-year point, a refinance event, investors get their money back. 2x is the projection, right? So you invested 100,000, you have a 200,000 back by year 6, which good luck with the stock market on to do that, right? You'd have to get real lucky. And then you've gotten your money back. So if you think about it, it's technically like an infinite return because now your money's back in your pocket and we're leaving the investors in the deal and splitting the returns 50-50 for 4 more years. We're just going to pay investors that don't have any money left in the deal for 4 more years. So if you're listening to this and you're like, what on earth are they talking about? Guys, this is a really cool opportunity. Most syndications aren't set up this way. And I think it speaks to you and what you want to do in terms of providing value to everyone involved, including your investors.
No, I appreciate that. And 2 things I would add, hopefully in favor of your case you're making here, is that we're also going to do a cost segregation study. And on a $6.5 million building, we're estimating about $1.4 million in depreciation that we can take in year 1 of the building. And that will be distributed pro rata out to investors. So for anyone who has other capital gains or passive income, that will effectively act as a tax shield, including the cash flow that we produce from this. Now, it's not tax-free, but it's tax-deferred, which is very common in this type of investment. And then speaking of tax-deferred, when you get that payday in year 6, since it's through a refinance, you're not taxed on money that you get in your pocket from debt. So that will also come in a lump sum that you don't have to pay tax on at that time. You would pay tax when you exit the deal entirely. But it's pretty difficult to come by tax-deferred heavy cash flow and also lump sum payments. So I do think those are two other elements of this structure that make it really attractive for investors.
Yeah, and maybe for those that aren't as spun up on cost segregations, really all that is, it's, Uncle Sam allows you to depreciate the structure on a property, rental property. So the building itself, and most just one or two Z rental owners will just write off that depreciation linearly, which is fine. But the IRS actually wants you to do a cost segregation study, to basically do an engineering study to say, hey, no, the carpets are going to not last 27 and a half years, or in a commercial 37 and a half years. The carpets aren't going to last that long. So actually you can write those off in the first 5 years, and the appliances and the this and the that. So essentially what happens is all that depreciation that you would get over a 37 and a half year time span linearly, you're able to depreciate most of that in the first couple of years. And so what's actually going to happen in that case when you do this is you will get cash flow and cash flowing years, but on the books, you're going to have losses because of those depreciations, which is really cool. I know this has been a big help for me when I've done this on properties from a tax perspective. And so for folks who are looking for a passive investment opportunity that pays a 20% IRR, so looking at more than double the historical S&P 500 performance in a real asset class that is serving real seniors and their families, that is employing caregivers, that is making an impact on the community, and that you're going to be able to write losses off of while making money, this is a really good opportunity.
Man, I knew we partnered with you guys for a reason.
Man, this is just so exciting. I love it. I think it's so great. And I think it's an opportunity accredited investors should definitely take a
Absolutely. No, I appreciate that. And I also just want to say too, that like the RAL Room is full of people that are booting up similar operations. And it is really cool to be part of a community. There's about 100 people in there, and everyone's doing cool stuff, and everyone has made that commitment. And I really, what I said earlier, when people rise to the circumstances that are around them, and we all lift each other up, right? There's a lot of moments where I think people want to give up on this type of journey because it gets tough and they're balancing other things in their life. But I just got to pay a lot of respect to the community that you guys have built. I mean it when I say meeting you guys and learning about this and leaning into it has totally changed the trajectory of our lives, and it's created the opportunity that we've described on this episode. And we're eternally grateful for the role that you guys have played in that.
Dude, yeah. Starting this community is one of the best decisions we've ever made. And I don't really mean from a financial standpoint. I just mean from a networking standpoint and the impact. Like, we're just looking at it and measuring it in terms of the impact we can make, right? That's how we set our goals for the community. We want to open 100 homes within 3 years. We might just do that. I think we have to be nearly 20 people are now under contract, have opened a home, are offering on land to develop, or are in the process of developing at this point. It's wild. We started with like 40 members originally, and we're not even a year. Like, it's wild. So I think we can do 100 homes in 3 years. I think it's totally possible, and maybe we could just blow that out of the water sooner than later. So yeah, it's so exciting, so cool. I love just the culture is amazing. Everybody's taking action. Everybody's value first, help each other. How do we win? We had a bunch of newbies on the Q&A call last night, and they're all like, yeah, I'm evaluating deals. Oh, yeah, I'm making offers. I'm like, whoa, slow down. What do you mean? Just absolutely blowing it out of the water. Yeah, it's awesome.
I love it. And I hope some of the listeners to this episode might consider joining as well if you're thinking about getting into assisted living. Very good decision. Never looking back.
Yeah, seriously. That happened with my first mastermind that I joined. I'm never leaving. And now starting a mastermind, of course, it's just been an awesome journey. So I'm glad we were able to model it after the one that we were never going to leave. Shout out to Dave Perret, War Room. Okay, Aaron, we have another webinar coming up on this deal. So if folks want to learn more about this deal, let's give them the
Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to share all about this deal down to the details and retrace everything, what it would look like to invest. You'll get to meet the team, including Brett, all the RAL Room guys, and our broader team too. And that'll be on Monday, June 30th at 6 p.m. Central. We'll make sure to include the registration link with this episode. And if you miss that, don't worry, because we'll have a recording. And if you get in touch with Charlie or myself or any of the RAL Room guys, we'll make sure you get all that information. And we'll have a few week window where accredited investors will be able to jump on if they're interested. We do already have a significant amount of capital banked, and we're hoping that once we open it up to a broader group, it'll go quickly, but would love to have anybody who's interested in getting on board, learn about the deal. One other last thing I'll say is that one of the benefits, when I've invested in deals in the past, part of what I've been looking for is exposure to how operators think and what they're going through, how they make decisions. Andrea, myself, and the whole team, we're very transparent and plan to share the whole journey, not just the highlights once a quarter, really bring investors along for the ride into the decision making, the good, the bad. And so people who are considering getting into this, that just want some exposure to that business model and what the journey might look like, this could be a good opportunity for that as well.
Aaron, I'm so glad you said that. It's such an overlooked advantage to being involved in one of these opportunities. And that's why I got involved in a syndication, 5 years ago, is I just want to learn by being a part of it. And same thing with a money fund. It's just so cool to, hey, I'm going to get paid passively, but I'm also getting paid to learn, which is baller, right? Okay, so for folks that are looking for how to get to the webinar, we'll have it posted in the show notes. It'll be on the YouTube version of this. We will also, if you want to go to our Facebook community, our main one is facebook.com/groups/residential assisted living. Yes, that's ours. Hop in there. The event will be advertised there, as well as if you're lost at all about and have any questions whatsoever, just email team, TEAM, at theralroom.com, the RAL room.com. And then we'll happily point you to whatever resources or information. And for anybody who's interested in this opportunity, like Aaron said, we will fill up fast. And we have more coming in the future, but those will be advertised to our previous investors first. So we have more of these coming. This one is absolutely beautiful. So really excited for it. And we hope to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to share about this, Charlie, and also for your partnership. Alex, Luke, you guys are incredible, and just sincerely appreciate you all.
Aaron, it's been a pleasure, man.
Thank you for making it to the end of today's episode. As you may know, podcasts are very difficult to grow organically. If you're getting value from today's episode, I'd deeply appreciate if you can take 30 seconds to leave my show a 5-star rating and review. This will go a long way to helping me reach more listeners just like you. Thank you so much in advance.